We're going to turn the FYPod into Dan Savage's podcast real fast.
Dan's a listener. I've been on to the Dan Savage pod a couple times. He wanted me to come on but to talk about politics, and I was like, I will only come on if I can take sex questions. We can do politics, but
is Dan Savage a porn star?
No.
Oh yeah. See, your cultural references are from the 50s, but like, you know, your societal familiarity with a thing that happened in the 80s and 90s is still zero because you were born in 2000. Hey everybody, I'm Tim Miller.
I'm Cameron Kasky, and this is FYPod, the Bulwark's Zoomer show, where we get into all the new young people stuff. Like our friend, who I only know as Peter Twinklage. He's Don Lemon's Cam. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, Cam has recruited yet another white male bisexual, which will let you know that Cam's not as woke as he says, okay? Cam claims that he's the wokest white man in Gen Z, but when he goes out into the field to find guests for FYPod, he always is landing on white bisexual males for some reason.
First of all, I thought, in my defense, Peter, I thought you were fully gay. Second of all...
Bi guys can be twinks. Can they not?
Two things can be true. You're so right. Second of all, I just wanted to talk to Don Lemon's Cam, dude. Like, this is our Zoomer show, and I thought that, and Peter, you have a show on the Don Lemon Network where it's just you. There's no Don Lemon, but it does say at the bottom of the screen Don Lemon, right?
That is correct.
So in many ways, you are sort of Don Lemon's white twink avatar.
Well, should I be doing this to Cam actually? For people who haven't noticed, people who only come to the episodes that I'm on, I appreciate you. But Cam is working hard and we're spinning off FYPod. We're testing out different little spin-off ideas. So, you know, there's on the YouTube feed, we're just jamming with Cam only material. Cam and Friends, we're calling it. It's kind of like he's like the Pete Hegseth of Cam and Friends. He's
so while I'm doing a solo video, you put like property of Tim Miller.
And
Bill Crystal at the bottom.
Yeah, and like we could create like a little picture of me maybe with pearls on, and just that'll just be on the bottom of every social video you post.
I like it. It might boost the viewership. You never know.
Why do you do it? Why does Don do it? Is it
we saw how successful y'all were being with this show, and Don thought we need to snatch back those Zoomers before they go full fat.
Oh, you copied us?
Absolutely. Who hasn't been?
By the way, I was also the first guest of White Don Lemon Hour.
That's true. I've had some great pals on. Jack Cocciarella, mutual friend of all of ours.
Okay. How are things going on the spin-off show?
Things have been very busy recently, so I haven't done an episode in a couple of weeks, but it's been fun. I think I found my sea legs.
It's all about consistency in the content game, Peter. All right. I know a little bit about you because I read your New York Times column about your dad taking you to Hooters, and I want to get to Hooters in a second. But for people who haven't read that, can you do the first date, rapid fire, TLDR? Like, where'd you come from? How did you find Don Lemon?
For sure.
Etc.
Yeah, I was a campaign reporter way back in the day, many moons ago in 2016. I leveraged that into a host of different...
How old were you? Were you the campus
I was
reporter?
The campus reporter, yeah.
For what college?
Yale.
Oh, I like the embarrassment with which you said Yale. I appreciate that. You should be fucking embarrassed about saying Yale. I like that. You paused. You thought about whether you should say it or not. You're like, do I say it?
You asked.
I know. I liked it, but I saw the wheels turning in your head. Okay, continue. I'm sorry. So you're a campus reporter at Yale.
Yes.
Continue.
Leveraged that into a couple of newsroom gigs, some here in the States, one internationally, which was really fun. And the Mail and Guardian in South Africa, specifically Johannesburg.
I'm sorry about what's happening to your people down there.
It's tough.
That week for us, by the way.
Friends who are being targeted?
Not targeted. I mean, my newsroom was overwhelmingly black, but they just
do you know any of the Afrikaners that we have welcomed here?
I'm proud to say I do not. But yeah, I was working in South Africa for a while, then went to CBS News, was there for a couple of years, then was Mehdi Hassan's and Ayman Mohideen's monologue writer at MSNBC for a couple of years.
Fucking gang right there, by the way. Like, those are my boys.
Oh, wait. I didn't realize that you were like a shit lib.
I'm all over the place, dude. Like my
perception of your content is very kind of abundancy. And here you are writing monologues for Mehdi. What's the true? Who's the true you, Peter?
I'm a chameleon. I am the talented Mr. Ripley. Through and through.
I went on Mitty's show a couple years ago, and we've just stayed in touch online for years. Finally met him in person almost a year ago now.
Such a nice guy.
He looks at me and he's like, "Oh, I thought you were shorter." I was like, "Thanks, Mitty. I'm not even like tall.
I guess there are worse things you can say to someone.
You do give short.
I give short spiritually. Yeah, a lot of people who have only met me on Zoom meet me and they're like, "Hey, leave a comment down below, everybody, for the algorithm on how tall you thought I was."
No, Dante, bleep out when he said the actual height a couple seconds ago, and then people can guess in the comments.
Tim, what are you, 6'1"?
Yeah, 6 foot now, almost. If you round up.
Good for you. Anyway, we were talking about white genocide, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, we were. What were you covering down there with the Afrikaners?
The Zupta scandal. 2 Indian-born tech tycoons had slowly bought up pretty much 50-60% of the South African government under a polyamorous, not actually, scratch that, not going to bash the polycules, but a polygamous Jacob Zuma, who, effectively allowed these 3 gents actually, to take over the entire government.
Really?
Yeah. Big deal at the time.
So it was 3 Indian men?
I believe so.
With like many wives? Is that?
No. Jacob Zuma, the South African president, is the polygamist, not the Indian tech tycoons.
Got it.
And then from there went to MSNBC, and then had a really wonderful few years there. Mehdi ended up leaving MS, and I found myself as a cart without a horse. And Don Lemon reached out, and I thought, hell yeah, dude, let's try this. Let's go into these
lemon heads.
Indeed, the lemon heads.
Do you feel like you're a lemon head?
How could I not be a lemon head?
Are you getting recognized on the street by all the lemon heads? Are lemon heads like coming up to you and throwing candy at you or anything?
I will say there have been 2 occasions, and I don't know whether this is flattering or humiliating, but there has been an older woman who has sort of done a double take and then come up to me and said, "Are you Don Lemon's white boy?"
I mean, Tim, is that not how I described him when I told you we were having him on the show?
Yes, you did. And I was like, "You mean Peter Twinklage?" You were like, "Yes." I was like, "Great, let's do it." Wow, that's nice. I would take it as a positive.
Yeah.
I mean,
they couldn't have been nicer.
I don't know. What is your racial heritage?
I'm pretty aggressively Caucasian. Yeah.
Okay.
Might be a
kind of like the Afrikaners. I did notice you mentioned the polyamory happening down there, and I got to tell you, with the discourse, I don't know if you noticed, but they're on the mayor's race. There's a new mayor in New York. I don't know. Cam wasn't really following the race that closely, but a guy named
is that guy that Bill Kristol's tweeting about how much he likes.
Yeah, Zohran Mamdani won, actually. And we had interviewed him, and there was a lot of discourse about one of the questions. No discourse about the polycules. We discussed polycules with now the guy most likely to be the next mayor of New York City.
Which brings
us
to
discourse
our
around that.
Next topic, which is Eric Adams and the fact that it's Adams time, baby. It's time to watch this guy cook. He's coming to save New York from people who met their wife on Hinge, and he's fucking locked and loaded. Let's take a look right now at Eric Adams showing us how to search our children's bedroom for guns.
You can look in a jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance, a gun. Look at picture frames and behind them, cameras. Try to determine what's taking place. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack, something simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything that's unusual. Like a pillow like this with a button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I would reach in, see what it is. Hide your bookcases. It could be more than just books. Perfect place to hide cocaine.
All respect in the world to Nathan Fielder. That is the performance artist of all time. At least the best living performance artist.
He is, with Trump in the beginning of his monstrous reign, there was still, even though he was already being evil on immigrants and stuff, there was still a degree of, oh, gee, this guy would be a fun hang.
Yes.
Trump.
Never for me. Just for the record, never for me.
Really?
He never made me laugh once. No, I always hated Donald Trump.
Go
ahead. I understand other people got it.
You were coming at it from inside the party, so you were like, this guy is turning us into a mockery. Whereas I was there like, oh my god, he's still funny. Now that Trump is obviously nobody anybody would want to be near because he's a terrible fascist who's even worse than his first administration. Eric Adams is that reprehensible politician who would be a fucking good hang. I don't know if you all saw, dude, like night after we bomb Iran was at some sort of hookah bar where there were like belly dancers posted up, just like smacking a monster vape. And I was like, I would love to be there with Eric Adams.
He's a great hang. Yeah, I actually went and looked behind my daughter's pillow to see if there was anything earlier. And it turns out there was like a 2-day-old milk, which was pretty disgusting, I would have to say. But I did not see any. There's no secretions, no
What's the
gaps.
type of milk that the Maha people are into again?
It's just raw milk. They like raw milk. No pasteurization. Louis Pasteur, part of the deep state. It all started to go awry back then. We were much healthier before we pasteurized milk or people got any vitamins.
Real. Well, listen, I have been in New York for a year. I've seen sort of the results of the Adams administration. I personally would like to rate Eric Adams as a mayor F. Let's take a look at
come on.
Let's take a look at how Eric Adams views the letter F.
I would rank him higher than F.
We utilize the letter F.
I saw this.
We utilize the letter F for faith.
Yes.
Our opponents use the letter F for profanity.
Yes.
So we need to stay focused. No distractions and grind. Focus, no distractions and grind. Focus, no distractions and grind. Focus, no distractions and grind. We're straight ahead.
Are you trying to make me be pro Adams on this podcast?
I was going to say, I think this is Eric Adams.
The audience?
I think this is Eric Adams joining the resistance, calling out Trump for dropping that F-bomb. What was it, on Tuesday? After the Iranians and the Israelis broke that ceasefire he brokered? That was going to win him the Nobel Peace Prize.
He was talking about fuck or the F slur? Because this is something that I really have a bone to pick with YouTube about, which is we cannot say the F slur on this podcast, or else we'll be demonetized. We will not be able to get the ad money that we have earned because YouTube has decided that is inappropriate language. And during fucking Pride Month, I feel like we should be able to say it if we want. All right, and I feel like we should
get even more monetized.
Yeah,
for saying it.
That's what I would say. All right, tell us about Hooters. You wrote this article, an entire article about Hooters, which is interesting for a gay.
Well, deeply problematic, Tim, to ask about Hooters, such a heteronormative institution on the 10-year anniversary of gay marriage being legalized. But I'll happily talk about it. Now, Hooters, I think, is America's safe space. I have a deep, deep love for the institution. The long short is I was hungover in a Colorado airport about 3-4 months ago, and I saw a tweet come up, as I often do, that Hooters was filing for bankruptcy. And while hungover, I pretty absentmindedly just tweeted out this story about how when I was 14 or 15, I landed in Florida a few days before the rest of my family to hang out with my grandfather prior to Thanksgiving. And he took me to Hooters. And I don't know if he quite knew what he was doing or if it was just an accident, but it definitely fucked me up a little bit. And as I relay in the piece, there was one moment of the meal where he stepped away to use the restroom and the waitress came over. And for the life of me, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of, "You're perfect just the way you are, kid." And it's just been like one of the most meaningful moments of my life. And sorry, but to fast forward, I tweet that out. I board the plane.
Did we find the Hooters?
No, and that's what's so...
And you guys had a connection? That would have been that's the way for the story to end. She comes on the Lemon Show.
After I published the piece, Alyssa Mastromonaco...
What Hooters was it?
It would have been West Palm Beach.
What year?
It was,
I've probably been to that Hooters.
like 2009-ish, 2010-ish.
You know a Hooters waitress from the West Palm Beach Hooters around 2009. You contact me. I want to be the matchmaker that makes this hug happen. Cameron, you attended Hooters?
Yeah, I like went a couple times with my family. I don't know. This is my conservative take. I think that people should be allowed to wear whatever they want. I think that when I see the gays that Rob Smith calls trashy for dressing like sluts, I'm like, pop off. You look great. Even when I don't think that's necessarily true, I think everyone looks beautiful with their bodies. When I see women dressed slutty, I'm like, yes, queen, serve tonight, slay, I'm with you, snap, snap, snap. But in my head, when I see people dressed like that, keep in mind, I am attracted to men and women alike. I do not deny myself half of the world's pleasure.
Happy for you.
But I don't like seeing people's bodies. It's not that I don't think people should be allowed to express themselves. It's not that I don't think people should be allowed to wear what they want. I support all of that. I think that that's great. But if I'm at a Hooters, I'm like, I don't want to see that. I don't like looking at people's bodies, hot people, unattractive people. I don't care. Like, I'm not into it. I don't like being at the pool. I don't like people seeing my body. Like, I don't even like people seeing my body when I'm like hooking up with them. Like when I'm done, shirt goes right back on. Because I don't know. I don't like imposing that upon people.
Do you reflect on that at all? Do you think that there's something underneath that?
Well, at first I thought it was like some sort of insecurity and body dysmorphia, but then I'm like, no, I don't really like it when anybody's naked. I wish everybody was just wearing clothes.
You also don't like to be touched.
I also don't like to be touched. That's true.
Yeah. What I got a text. This is interesting. I got a text earlier from another one of the lefties in my life who's dunking on me over Zoran's victory, who said that they all similarly got into a fight today about where they were accused of being a conservative. That's what the text was about. Like, now I know what it feels like to be you, because they were against public sex. And I was like, yeah, I'm left of you on that. Or do you think that there should be a crackdown on public sex? Cameron, do you think there should be a legal?
What kind of public are we talking?
I don't know, the park.
The park? No, I do not think people should be allowed to have sex.
The dark room? What about the bathroom? What about the Hooters bathroom?
I'm gonna go
Hooters bathroom. Hooters bathroom.
Hooters bathroom. I think it's a gray area.
Gray area. What about you, Peter? Hooters bathroom? Do you think that you should be able to have sex in there?
I think I am anti-sex in family restaurants.
It's Hooters a family restaurant. This was something that confused me about your article, I have to say, because my parents were like Cameron. That's why I've reacted so opposite to them, and I'm so sex positive. They were I love them, great parents, love them, perfect. Sex, we didn't talk about it though. Very uncomfortable. No birds and the bees chat. No, nothing. And so the idea of them taking me to Hooters, like, is the most insane thing I could ever imagine in my life. Yeah. And so the premise of your article was that it was a family restaurant, and that dads would take their sons and the gay ones, to kind of butch them up.
Yeah.
And that like happens. Like that is a real. That wasn't just a you thing. Like there are kids at Hooters.
Yeah. So I tweeted that out. Did not buy the Wi-Fi on my flight back to New York from Colorado, and when I landed, I had somewhere in the ballpark of like 300,000 likes, and just a deluge of comments from predominantly gay men, but all different types of queer people who said that the exact same thing had happened to them. And so I pitched this piece to my editor, Parker Richards, who's just phenomenal at times. The essay would not have come together without him. And he then encouraged me to reach out to a bunch of these people, interview them, and then lastly, go out to the nearest Hooters. There's only one that remains in New York City. I believe it's out in Brooklyn. And what struck me, I went out there a couple of times, it was just tons and tons of families. They were the folks you would expect, sort of the lonely looking older straight men who really just wanted someone to talk to, but just so many families. I note in the piece, there were kids so young they needed to be placated with iPads. I agree, Tim. It is sort of odd that waitresses are so scantily clad, and that just seems normalized to all the parents.
But it seems it's the gay safe space. It's like the new Friends of Dorothy is the Friends of Hooters. That was
so. In addition to interviewing a bunch of these queer dudes or queer people, I spoke to a ton of waitresses, and they said that this is not a new or novel phenomenon to them either, that they see tons of
Well, I was a grown man. I was not at Hooters, actually. I was at a down market Hooters spinoff. Forget what it was called. But it was also a wings place in Daytona Beach where women dressed like they were at Hooters, but instead of having the owls, whatever, they had something else. And I took my father-in-law there the night before my child was born. She was born we were adopting her. She was born in Daytona. And that was a really memorable experience for me because he felt very comfortable in the space, me less so, but I was happy to do it. And he was sharing some things about after we had a couple of beers. It was a reflective moment for him, sharing some things about his past and that was quite intimate. And so I guess Hooters has
at a knockoff Hooters.
I pre-game Toulouse at a knockoff. Have you ever been to Daytona?
I've not. Never had.
Where else do you go? Daytona is trash.
Shout out the Kasky family. My parents kept me safe from a lot of Florida. I was always curious why, growing up, I had stayed in a very small specific part of Long Island Jew, Florida, and then Fort Lauderdale, and then Miami if we got heat tickets. And then, I got a little older and I started to get an understanding of what Florida was. And I was like, oh, they were doing this to take care of me. They were doing this to protect me from a state that was like that a lot longer than people like to think it was. The Florida man didn't just happen in 2018.
Let me tell you, you didn't miss much in Daytona Beach. I was like, I was like at the Daytona 500s there. There's got to be some cool stuff here. No, nothing. The birth of my child, though, a very memorable place. I'd always have a special place in my heart, but not a great place to get a meal. Anything else? Do you guys have anything else you want to chit chat about? Anything else happening with the youth? I've got a mailbag question here.
Go for it.
Let's get into the mailbag.
All right. Before we get to the mailbag, boomers. Your questions are not good right now, okay? I don't want your questions about what we think about politics. What is Cam's opinion about senators? Let's have a little fun. We're loosening up. We're loosening up here. We're looking for boomers to be enlightened into the lives of the youth.
Boomers, gang. First of all, I have more in common with you than I do with Gen Z anyway. Yeah. If you actually listen to FYPod regularly, you'll notice that I pull most of my cultural references from the 50s.
Yeah.
But boomers, when you see Gen Z do shit and you're like, what the fuck is going on with that? That's what we want to hear about.
Yeah. Ask us about that.
I don't want to talk about whether or not I think John Fetterman should be put under a conservatorship, which I do. Yes. I don't want to talk about whether or not I think John Fetterman should be locked in a room with soft foam blocks and a coloring book that's just the Israeli flag. I want to talk about your personal life. I want to talk about your sex life. Boomers, send us questions about sex. I don't like being touched, but I love talking about boomer sex.
We're going to turn the FYPod into Dan Savage's podcast real fast.
Dan's a listener. Dan, I've been on to the Dan Savage pod a couple times. He wanted me to come on but to talk about politics, and I was like, I will only come on if I can take sex questions. We can do politics, but
is Dan Savage a porn star?
No.
Oh yeah. See, your cultural references are from the 50s, but your societal familiarity with a thing that happened in the 80s and 90s is still Xerox. You were born in 2000.
And his name is Dan Savage.
He is he's the Dear Abby of gay men.
Yes.
He's a gay sex advice columnist. He was the OG gay sex advice columnist.
I've also been on. He invited me on to talk about dude bros because I'm clearly a paragon of masculinity and I can teach Democrats.
Did you get to take sex questions?
I did.
It's so fun.
Dan Savage, have me on, dude.
I'll send this to him. He will. He'll send you. So send us your boomer sex questions. Would love to weigh in on that. Robert has this. When you ask boomers where they got a piece of false news, they always say they saw it on Facebook. Is there a Gen Z version of this? Do 20-year-olds believe insane stuff like boomers do? If so, what?
TikTok,
Twitter.
TikTok and Twitter.
It's worse. It's worse for the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
The TikTok is insane. You're scrolling on TikTok sometimes and somebody's like, the moon's made of cheese. And
the moon that they use in the TikTok videos, AI, by the way.
They're TikToks now. Somehow I got into a TikTok fucking rabbit hole. of white dudes that look like Peter who go to Iran and Afghanistan, and they like do selfie videos, and they're like, things are great here. It's like better in Kabul than it is in Ohio. And like, Americans are so stupid. They don't understand how nice people are. Here's me eating like a kebab.
Do you remember when Tucker Carlson did one of those videos in Russia?
Yes.
He was like,
so that's the boomer version. There's a literal equivalent of hot, like 25-year-old guys in Afghanistan talking about how great the Taliban's doing. So like,
everybody, let it be known that Tim just insinuated that Tucker Carlson is hot, and you heard that here first on the FYPod.
No, I did not. I was talking about the TikTok boys that are there. They're just they're frat boys, not Tucker. Tucker's looking kind of jowly and big lately.
He has for a while.
I don't think he's on the GLP-1s. Well, what a program. Is this kind of similar to how things go on the Don Lemon network?
Exactly,
or is it a little
the
bit
same.
more that's more in ship shape over there?
Precisely the same tone. It's
What does Don Lemon
seamless.
say about whether or not he likes to be touched or see people's boobs?
I don't know if we've ever discussed that, but I can get back to you.
Okay, great. I want to hear what Don says about seeing people's lemons.
I've got a list of questions for Don that we're going to have to, you'll have to come back with do a little Q&A sheet. It'll be like a little bonus segment.
I love it.
Because I had several things I wanted to hear I didn't know about.
This has been FYPod. I am young white Tim Miller. This is young white Don Lemon. Get ready for more coming soon. We got a crazy week. And then after that, we've got Tim on vacation when Tim is going to put me on with Bill Crystal.
Watch out.